This is season 8, episode 27, number 334 of the Decoded Podcast. It's Friday, and you and I don't have to be at work because it's Good Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
I like that. As am I. Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
What are we going to say? Are
I
you
don't
drawing
know.
something?
I'm just kind of like painting around, just playing. Nothing specific. Just kind of playing with medium. It's watercolor that I'm just messing around with.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just playing around with something on paper. Yeah. That's sort of like it's a fidget, right? It's a fidget.
You know what I like about that?
Tell me.
I can make a direct connection. This morning before we started the podcast, I was playing with video.
Mm.
And
Tell
I
me.
made a little reel about my rabbit. I was hanging out with the rabbit. I fed him his breakfast, hanging out with him. Had my cell phone and was like, "Yeah, I think I'll do something a little creative." So I made a 20-second reel of pictures of him with some effects and posted it on my Instagram.
There it is. I'm looking at it right now.
It was fun. It was nice. It was a moment. So I had my creative moment this morning before the podcast. You're doing your thing while we podcast.
Fidgets.
Fidgets.
Creative fidgets.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Gary's with us.
Morning, dude. I had, and I mentioned this to you in the polo. I had like had this moment of lightness as of, I'll say 3:15 yesterday, where it occurred to me that I had gotten caught up on all my paperwork. And it's fascinating to me how semesters have their own kind of Black Friday. That's what it actually occurred to me. I'm like, this is like Black Friday. Like this idea, Black Friday, like why Black Friday is Black Friday, right?
Right.
Right. So it takes businesses, morning Rochelle, takes businesses all the way till late November to crawl out of debt. And at that point, they're profitable for the remainder for that month. They get 1 month where they're actually making money, right? It struck me like these same cycles happen in education. You get this sudden Black Friday moment that I have finally crawled out of. I've crawled out of the litigious, bureaucratic, checkboxy day-to-day planning. And it felt really good because I actually stopped from. I'm like, damn, I have enough lesson planning now done to take me to the top of June. I know where all my courses are going. My comms with families are on point. My IEP documentation is all cleared up. My anecdotals between the EA and I are all cleaned up. The documents that I need to get signed for an array of different reasons are all in motion. I was like, damn, I'm in my Black Friday mood. This is Black Thursday. I'm going to call it Black Thursday because I'm officially out of paper debt. And I'm now officially on that closing end. And I have these other elements. Like I've said in the past, April, I start taking shit home. April, I start throwing stuff out. I have a standing reminder on my phone that comes up each day. Throw something out, organize something, give something away. And that's a specific triple play for school, for work. Throw something out, organize something, put something away. And it's my small steps towards, I realized part of that mantra was in the back. That's my little 3 simple rules to sort of be able to lead the school year on point. There is ongoing things that are just like the daily, but the longer things. Yesterday was my Black Thursday, and I loved it. And I said that last night. I went out, saw some plays with Jake. We went back to the school and we saw some of his peers. They were doing plays that have been written by students at the school. So it was cool to be there. It was cool to kind of go and see some of that because I don't get well, because I'm the community classroom and I'm all the way like at the end of a hallway. I don't get a lot of interaction broadly with the school. I just don't. So it's cool to be able to go there and see the stuff that's going on with the rest of the school outside of my little bubble, meeting some of Jake's friends, some of the kids that I do know from student council, all that kind of yada yada. But I was telling him about this paperwork thing, and he's just smiling. He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. We're getting like mid-April, and I would say that I'm now just officially caught up with paperwork, where I've got enough extra done on top of the daily to kind of say, this is a this is a this is Black Thursday, just before Good Friday. I get Good Friday, Easter Monday, completely different phenomenon. But it is, I'm just, and it's not like Black Thursday and Easter Friday are connected in any way whatsoever. This day could have occurred on any day, but the element of getting out of that hole, I'm like, man, that feels good to actually go to bed and just like I can just wait. I can just wake up. I can just wake up. That's all I have to do. I have to wake up tomorrow and just kind of start doing things. I'm not reaching for the bag of work. I'm not reaching for the emergency plans. I'm not having to sort of like tweak my daily morning meetings. I'm caught up.
I like all of that, and I'm happy for you because when you messaged me that information, I was like, "That's awesome, bro. That's great. That's a great feeling. That that feeling is great." And
That little flex too. I sent you the pic of
yeah,
inbox zero. Yeah.
I laughed because my inbox, I purposely have things that live in the inbox.
As
So,
do I, but even
okay,
those things didn't need to be there anymore because I get
gotcha.
that. I got stuff pinned to the top. I have that too, but everything got sorted, which I loved.
I think it's wonderful, and I do know the feeling. So I'm happy for you that you had your Black Thursday moment. Um, I know when I used to be an elementary teacher, I think after Easter is there's a there's a feeling of smooth sailing until the end where then you have to ramp up again in terms of report cards and the amount of time and energy that goes into writing those. And then even that thing shuts down pretty quick. So after that little blip of elementary reports, because you have to hand them to the into the office relatively early, and then it's really smooth sailing till the end in terms of all your official reporting is over. Um, and I'm sure there's people that change things up until the moment that the principal will let them, but I was never that teacher. Hey, you want these in on this day? Great. Then everything will be wrapped up and ready for you for that day. In fact, I tend to be an early hander in of those things. So I always aimed to have my reports in about a week earlier than they were supposed to be in. Always aimed for that because then the principal usually would read them first, and then I'd be one of the first people to get back um, comments on changes that they wanted made. I'd make the changes, and then it was really over. Now, fast forward to high school, and I'm in a different boat. I'm not teaching 3 classes a semester. The IEPs never stop. Like I just wrote 2 last week, right? Those they just seem to be there's a major time for them and then there's the lull, but even in the lull, I think the lull might be harder
You
because you
never
got
leave the river. You
right,
never
you
leave the
never leave the
river.
river, but
Yeah,
then
shallower, deeper, friskier, colder, but you never really leave it. Yeah.
the thing so if we're talking river here,
Okay.
in IEP season, I'm in the river. I'm wearing my waders, I'm in the river, I'm constantly in the water. I wake up, I'm in the water, I get out of the water, I go home. What it feels like now when I get an email from guidance saying we got a new OSR, there's an IEP in it, please come and pick it up. It's like, oh shit. I'm sitting on the bank, I'm having my sandwich. I don't want to have to put my waders on and go in the water. But that is my job. So and like I told you, I wrote 2 of them last week. So I was kind of like, it was funny too because I was trying to fire the neurons in my brain like, "Oh, what do I say in this box? What am I supposed to do before I do this and that?" It's that whole thing I needed to recall. But anyway, so for my report cards now, the one class, I handed them in a day early and I felt so accomplished. I walked into the office and I said to the administrative assistant at the front, I'm like, "Hey, where do I put these?" And she just points to she points to a little box that they made for them. And there's a little note on the box and there's a pen. It's like, "Don't forget to sign them." And so I signed them, put them in the box. I was all happy
Was
that
there anything in it that you sort of just paused for a moment there, like hoping someone would say, like, thank you for handing them in? Like just a moment where you need to be acknowledged, or you were just good with the coolness of it?
no, no, I would prefer that. I don't want to be seen and I don't
Gotcha.
want to be heard. I just
Okay.
um and that's the I it's a fun little game for me. I try to get when I have to go into the office, when I have to go into the office at my school, and Gary will know this because my school, to when you walk in the front door of the office to get to the administrators, you have to go through the gauntlet of all the admin secretaries. Like you there's no other way. Whereas at Gary's school, you walk into the office, they're literally on one side of the room. And so to get to the VPs, you don't even have to walk through anybody. So I prefer that. But anyway, um, I walk in and if and I'm more than happy to acknowledge them and say good morning, but I don't want to disturb them because whenever I walk and they're on phones or on their computers, they're doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. But the minute one of them says good morning, then it's on because then everybody looks up like good morning, good morning, good morning. So I try to I walk in, I'm like, okay, maybe they won't notice me. If they do, then there's gonna be 100 good mornings. And hey, Roland, how are you? And I'm like, no, no, because then an administrator will hear my name. They might want to come out and talk to me. Like
That is funny.
it's
That
layered,
is
as I
funny.
would say, right,
No,
Chris?
I totally get it. I totally get it though, but that is freaking
So
funny.
I walk in and I look at the I look at the receptionist and I'm like, "Hey, I've got my report." She's like, she just turns and she points, not in a rude way,
Mhm.
just they
No,
go
no,
over
no.
there. I'm like, "Okay." So I walk over there and I look at the box and I see the note and the pen and I grab the pen, I sign it, I put it in the box. Then I look up and around and all the admin assistants are doing something. Like, so they're not looking up at me. And I'm like, that's awesome. I turn around and I quietly walk out of the office and I'm like, success. I I I do not want to be seen. I do not want to be heard. Um, and that was that. And I was all proud that they were in a day early. And then nobody emailed me to tell me there were any problems with them. So I'm good. My midterms are handed in. Everything is in order online. Everything's in order on paper. I'm good. Um, that's my secondary experience at this moment in time with reports. Nothing like nothing like elementary. My wife has commented every time she's seen me working on my marks, she's like, she just shakes her head because it's nothing. It's nothing compared to the beast of an elementary report card.
Yeah.
Um, and apparently they were easier. Now, the comments I write, they're up to 400 characters. But I remember years ago, you literally, there was a bank I was told, and you could just click on a couple of the things and they're one sentence long kind of thing, like very, very, very short commenting. It's changed now, which I think is reasonable. When I get my kids' report cards, I would like to read about other than great job Benjamin in science. Like tell me more. What did he learn? What does he need to work on? And I know some of that is maybe not as legit as we'd like it to be, but because I only have one class, I do put more time and effort into actually saying something about the kid. Like in my current class, I have half a dozen kids who are on me 24/7. They've told me right from the beginning, I want to get a really high mark in this class. And so when I um, assess their work, provide them with feedback, it's pretty much a guarantee for this group of kids that I'm going to get an email saying, I understand what you said I need to work on. Can I resubmit my work? And I say yes 99% of the time. I've only said no once. Basically, I'm like, No." They're and they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because there comes a time where you literally it it doesn't fit in my brain that you literally redo every single thing in this course to try to get 100%." I'm like, "That's just ridiculous. That's not going to happen. That's not what learning is." And you're not in here to game the system. You're here to learn about this topic. There are things you can do to tweak your assignments, and I'm more than happy, but that doesn't equal 100% in your brain. It's not in your brain. It's not going to it's not going to cause, like, there's no way. I'm not doing that. I've told them I'm not doing that. I'm not going to I tell you what, where you went wrong, what you could do better, what you need to work on. That doesn't mean that you get to redo the assignment and think you're going to get 100%. I'm like, that's not how it works. So you can keep doing that if you wish. That's not how it's going to work. Um, but that's how some of them operate. Anyway, that's a little bit of the dark side. The light side is that I wrote in my report card comments for them that I'm appreciative of their initiative and the way that they communicate with me in order to improve their learning and their demonstration of it. Uh, if I read that on one of my kids' report cards, I'd fall off my chair because I know that that's not something that I don't believe that that's something that's happening as often as I would like it to be, but to each their own. I only have one class and I want to do a really good job. Who knows what happens to me as I grow older and my job changes and whatnot? I don't, but it's
I'm
me.
on the oth I'm on the other end. I don't wanna do a good job on my reports.
No?
No, I don't, because I do see a direct correlation between striving to do a good job there means because of the amount of time I have, I'll create deficit in my day-to-day direct communication with my families. I see a direct correlation. So I don't need to be any better or to get any clearer in my articulation. Ours, they're called, where my computer program, they're called attachments to the report card. So they're basically, I have to build them from the ground up. So my basic format is, just because I look at it as a really thin snapshot moment for the parents relative to the volumes of conversations that I've had so far. So I have always, since I've entered into community classroom programming, I have diminished the importance of the report card because it's just one article in a broader conversation. So what I'm actually able to do is something that other, I think, classroom teachers wish they could but can't, is that they don't make that the showcase moment to talk about learning. But because of the way their classes are framed, they got 30 kids, 3 periods, all this assessment, all this marking, all these curriculum expectations to fulfill with the kids. They're just happy that they can put a one-liner drop down on there and hope that it's enough. But I get the sense, like, I understand parents want details in that documentation, but I find that still the discussion in most places leans on the litigiousness and the volume of descriptive feedback as a trade-off for one-to-one phone calls and conversations about kids' progress. The other thing that I make sure is that diminishing, I make sure that it is clear on their end that because I just say a few things in this attachment to report card, it in no way undermines my interest and care and enjoyment of your child. I'm in a relationship with you, and I'm not going to make this one moment, despite the fact that pops up, once each semester, twice if you want to include the end of your report card. These are all just articles of a broader process. I just find too many educators feel like they're in this space, like these are closers, that you're trying to write something that's a closer. You're trying to put details in there that's never enough, but you're hoping it's enough that you're not going to get someone complaining, or it's rich enough, but never rich enough to explain exactly where the kid is in their learning cycle, or it's data driven enough, but never data driven enough to satisfy someone that's going to say, but I want a higher mark. There's a certain amount of escapism, and I've never really had this conversation broadly with other teachers. There's a bit of it's a dark space, I think, in education, just in general, the spaces I've cycled through where people are actually able to speak openly about how have I flattened the importance of the report card such that whatever squeezes out of that moment is actually painted over a whole semester. So it's not removing it, it's just making sure that you're giving a constant nice trickle to the parents of where they're at. So my attachment to report cards will give a brief, this is how I do it. So brief explanation of the unit that we're in and the learning goals of the unit. I always include that again, almost like I'm giving them the course outline. This is the unit right now, the snapshot where we're in. I'm not doing everything. My midterm is not a reflection of everything that we've done up to that point. It's just a snapshot of where we currently are. I put strengths, needs, next steps. So identify within this unit where they're really sort of rocking some of the expectations. Then I'll put another statement, and it's 1 or 2 sentences. Another second sentence for the needs. How could that of their achievement of that learning goal, how could it have been leveled up? So where do they kind of miss the mark a little bit? And this idea of practice. My idea of practice is always, always, always based on what the family should be doing at home. My next step is always that. It's about something about the learning experience that can be brought in outside of the classroom. If not the family, then a life experience. I've always worked that way. And repeat. But again, it is not only reflective of where the kids are at, snapshot, it's reflective of where I'm at in the discussion with the parents. It has to meet those 2 criteria. But I do flattening, and I don't want to get better at it. I don't want to be any more clear. I have more than enough assessment data. I have more than enough anecdotal data. I have more than enough active demonstration that I care for my kids and the notes to back it up. So yeah, that's my little. And I love that. Here's something I deeply appreciate. You're an assessment guy. You've done deep work on it. I know you've done that. You've presented, you've learned, you've taken. I think maybe even the NAQ. You've done coursework on this. I'm going to take your nodding not as an indication of just that you're a friend of mine and you're like, okay, Clough, I get it. And the thing that we do, I'm actually taking your focus on this as like, yes, that's good stuff, Clough, and I get it. Not that I'm seeking your appreciation, but I think in many ways you are deeper. I will say you are deeper on the technical side of assessment than I am. I'm irreverent that way. I'm just like, I don't give a shit. I know for myself, I'm very deep in the relational side. Not that you aren't, but I am so deep in the relational side, the translational side, the affective side, the emotional side, the sort of like, let's do this in a different friggin' way side of assessment because of being an alt ed, spec ed, guidance, student success. Like I'm deep there, right? But the fact that you're nodding and kind of saying that kind of, I take that as like, I'm being sensible here. And I appreciate that. Not that you're giving me a direct compliment, but I appreciate that you're nodding along with me. Like, have at it, Clough.
Look, the way I see it is this: having known you for many years, and we've talked about the way we operate with our students in our assessment, we've talked about every corner of education. And
There
what
is no subject.
no,
No, there
there isn't.
probably is. No, there's got to be.
Oh,
I
I
hope
don't.
there is. I hope
There
there is.
may be, but
Yeah,
in general, the general things we've talked about in education over the last 12 to 15 years.
334 conversations.
Well, 334 recorded conversations,
Record and what were recordings? Moments where we talked probably many
snapshots,
conversations. Snapshot. Hey, buddy, nice.
snapshots.
You just did A and E on us here for a second. Sorry,
But
keep going.
I know how you operate as the the classes you've been teaching for I don't know how many years. I know how you communicate. Well, I don't know. You've talked to me about all the communication you've engaged in with families. You know your families really well, and they know you really well. And so, what you're saying about your report card and the way you feel you don't need to improve there, you don't need to invest a lot of time there. It's because you've invested somewhere else. The bottom line is there needs to be an investment, is my belief. How we do
Good.
and where we do that is based on our style and our context. So for me, teaching online courses, I'm sorry, I'm not calling families every day. I'm not doing that, and I don't want to. Um, so for me, there's a lot of emails, but still not enough to really get to know people the way that you know your kids in your classes every semester. I could do that. I don't want to invest there that way. So I invest,
So you don't wanna improve either in that way. So
yeah, I
that's
don't
your
want to go
version
there.
of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't want to go there. So what I wanted to say, the nodding was within y- the way the way you do it with the context you're in, you could run a master class at it. It just be but your master class is going to be different than mine under the circumstances and the context. So I nod because you are putting in the time, you are demonstrating the care and respect. You're just doing it how it works in your context, which is awesome. I want to flip for a second.
Mhm.
I want to stay on this, but I want to flip. I had two really awesome, well, they were awesome for me. I don't know how they were for the kids. Two awesome experiences yesterday that made me feel like I was kind of being effective in the role that I have. The first one was, so at my school, the IEP monitors, the flavor at my school is every grade 9 student you've met with several times throughout the year, you know them and you have a good feel for who they are and how they operate with the classes, generally
Mhm.
speaking. I had a teacher come to me the other day and say that they were struggling with the behavior of one of the grade 9s that's on my caseload. So a couple of things that worked for me. The minute that the teacher told me the student's name, I know who the student was, which is great because sometimes I'm like, stop talking for a second. And I've got a notebook and I've got all the names of my caseload in that notebook. And I look through to find the name. And if the name's not there, I say, don't invest 15 minutes in me right now. They're not on my caseload. So I'm happy to talk to you, but you might not want to give me the full story because you're going to have to do it again. So I look. Usually. This kid, I didn't need to look. I'm like, "Oh, I know him. What's going on with him?" And right away my brain flips to how do I feel about the kid? So for me it was like, "Oh, things have always I have a relationship. It's good. I can recognize them." Like I'm flipping through all these things in my head. So I'm like, "Oh, Roland, be proud of yourself. You actually know who we're talking about here." And then so he starts telling me, right? And bro, I'm telling you, all of it is like administration worthy. But I get it. I'm the first stop on the journey, right? So I say to him, okay, thanks for filling me in on that. How's he doing with this midterm? Oh, he's failing. Okay, we go. Have you spoken to the parents? Like I'm going through all this. The teacher tells me everything. I'm like, okay, you know what? High priority. I'll meet with him before the end of this week. Um, I'll have a chat with him. I'll see what's going on. I'll come at it from the IEP because that's my job, and we'll go from there. I call this kid in, and I'm like, I had the weirdest experience this week, and he's like, "What?" Like, and he knows me, right? He's like, "What's going on, Mr. C?" And we're talking. I said, "I had the weirdest experience this week. Your science teacher came to me and was like, he was talking about you, but it didn't sound like you. I was just being plain simple. Like, he goes, "What?" I'm like, "What's going on in there? Like, what is it about that class that you were described in a way that I don't know you in that description? Like, I don't get it. I know I'm not your classroom teacher, but I've known you now for like 7 months. I've talked to your other teachers. What's going on?" So kid was like really honest. I don't like the content. I don't like that class. I got buddies in there. So I talk more and we do the whole thing, right? So I say to him, "Well, how do you want this to play out? Because I'm telling you right now, some of the things your science teacher was telling me, right away I was thinking that's an office thing. That's not a Mr. C thing. Like I need to take you down to your VP and you need to have a heart to heart with them because this isn't going to end well if this is like what's happening. It's not cool, man. And I said to him, you're not like this. So why are you being like this? At the end of this, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm not gonna talk as much. I'm gonna be more respectful." I'm like, "What about your uniform? You gonna walk in without it on or what?" He goes, "No, I'll make sure it's on." I'm like, "Your cell phone? Do I need to toss it out the window or am I gonna let somebody else do that?" He's like, "It'll let me fix it." I'm like, "Okay." When I was walking out of the building yesterday, the science teacher is like, I don't know what you said to him, but he was completely different kid. And he even came to talk to me and to let me know that he wanted to do better. And I was like, are we talking about the same kid? And he's like, yeah, yeah, thanks for talking to him. I said, that's nothing. I'm like, what did you do back to the kid after he came to you like that? Because I'm new in high school, but I'm telling you right now, if you don't connect to that kid now, he's done, and so are you. He's like, "No, I told him this is great. We're going to come up with a plan next week to make sure that his marks are on point." Da, da, da. I'm like, "It's very important for you now that you've opened this door. It's very important that you leave that door open and you connect with him. Because if he was causing you enough difficulty that you had to come to me, and I was thinking about going to admin, I'm like, I'm just saying, you do what you need to do. Use your professional judgment. But if that door's open now, you grab onto that kid and you connect. Like you make it work. You show him you care. Because if you don't, I think it's going to fall apart. So that was a really good, like, full circle thing with a kid that I had been building with, but didn't know that I was building for anything. I was just building because, well, it's the right thing to do. You get to know your students, you get to know how they learn. That's important to me to understand who they are, right? That was really awesome because it doesn't always turn out that way, which is okay because I learned from all the other things. But then there was another kid in the room in student success. This kid was giving us a hard time. And the other teacher that I was working with in student success, all she did was ask her a question. And this kid was like, this kid So my teaching partner asked her a question and she lashed out at her. And I was like, and it was like what she asked her, "Hey, what's your name?" Because we didn't know who she was and we need to be accountable for who's in the room. And she kind of lashed out at her. So when she said her name, I looked her up in the system and I recognized the last name. So I went up to her and I was like, "Hey, do you have a brother?" She's like, "Yeah." And she was kind of like attitudey. I'm like, "Is his name so and so?" She's like, "Yeah." And now her and her friends are all kind of looking at me. And I said, I taught your brother in grade one. And she's like, where? She doesn't believe me. So I tell her. She's like, oh my God, that is where we went to school when he was in grade. I'm like, how are you doing? Like the last time I saw you, you were just this little kindergarten kid. Now what grade are you in? She tells me, and how's your brother? And she's, how are your parents? And I could see her softening. I could see her softening, right? And as she's softening, I say to her, hey, just so you know, like when kids come in here and we don't know who you are, that's a problem for us. We need to put you into the onto the sheet so that everybody knows you were here. If attendance calls and hey, was so and so in there or whatever, we're like, yeah, they were. Because if your name's not on that list, you didn't exist. I get calls all the time. Was Jimmy there? I'm like, nope. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, it was my period. I was in the room. I'm on that sheet. If Jimmy's name's not on that sheet, Jimmy wasn't here. So that's like my wife would probably say it's part of my spectrum, right? It's like, no, if Jimmy's in the room, and I always check with kids, are you just here to print something or are you staying and working? Because if you're staying and working, full interrogation. Where's your cell phone? Put your uniform on. I need your name, which class you're working on. Like I need all the details. So anyway, it was I felt like what I was doing with the girl was technical. Like it was like a strategic technical thing. I was able to find a way in, and then I was like, calm the F down. We're not here to cause you problems. We're actually here to support you. So whatever you're experiencing right now, and I don't know what it is, and I'm not judging, but take it down a couple of notches. We're here to support." And then it was great because then before she left, she talked to the teacher that she kind of snapped at and said, "Thanks for helping me out with whatever." Then she said to me, "I'll tell my brother, you say hello." And I'm like, I did one of these. I'm like, I hope he has nice things to say about me from grade one. And she's like, "He was a monster in grade one. So if you're coming to ask about him, you must have liked him because he was a monster in grade one." And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember." I remember his profile. It was not pretty, but hey, we got along and it was a fun year. But so two proud moments of connecting and using like technical strategic skills pinpointed in order to in order for a positive outcome. But it's never guaranteed, right? Because I could tell you 100 times where I've gone in with strategy and technique and kids are like, "It's not going to work." I'm like, "Okay." So anyway, it's a balance for the report card. It's like, oh, oh, one more thing, one more. This is cool. This is cool. And then I'm going to stop. And this one's, I'm going to dedicate this story to Gary. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate you listening because Gary's one of my mentors. So it's nice for my mentor to hear that his mentee thinks he's succeeding. I taught in my first term in high school, I taught an online religion course. And I've met several of the kids from that course because they go to my school in real life and they've come in to work in room 208. And last week I got an email from, okay, so one of the kids comes in the room a lot. There's some anxiety and there's some stuff, there's some learning stuff. And so the student comes to room 208 to settle and to work in a quiet space and then they go back to class. But I know them because I taught them online. Last week I got an email from this student. It was after school, and the student was like, "Oh my God, Mr. C, I lost such and such. I don't know where it is. Can you please check room 208 to make sure it's there? I'm so sad. I'm upset." It was just a rant about what she lost. Okay. So I write back and I'm like, I wrote back immediately. I said, "I'm not at school, but I will, I'll include everybody that works in that room in this email. And I'm sure somebody's still there. And if they're not there, the room's now closed and locked. So if your stuff's in there, don't worry, we'll find it." And then about an hour later, I got an email. She's like, "I found what I lost. I went back to school, and some kind person put it like on a ledge in the hallway." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." So then the next day, I saw her in real life, and I said to her, "Hey, I got a question for you." She's like, "What's up?" I said, "Why did you email me about your lost item?" And she goes, "Oh, you taught me last semester and I see you all the time and I know you're nice and that you're always willing to help." And I was like, "Hey, that's great, right?" Like I was like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Well, look at what you did. You emailed everybody who works in student success to be like, so and so lost such and such. If anybody's still there and you see it, could you email her and let her know it's there?" She's like, "That's what the nice teachers do." And I was like, "Okay." And I just kind of left it, right? I was, I took my W and I walked away. Um, so it's kind of cool that she knew me from online, then she knows me face to face and she feels comfortable enough to ask for help if she needs it, even though I was nowhere near the room. And I thought to myself, how do I help this kid? I don't know where the kid was and what she lost. But anyway, a feel good moment. There you go, Gary. I'm sure that happens to Gary all the time in student success.
All the things that happen all the time.
All the things
When
that
you
happen all the time.
I wanna go, like, all the way back to the first 5 minutes. I'm gonna pivot. Here comes the pivot. And you said something, your phrase was something like, "Now that I'm no longer in elementary." Where does that land for you when you say those words now? What does that feel like for you to say those words? You look at the arc, you look and I mean, it's a very I love it because for me, it strikes me as a really powerful identity question, identity statement. It's a declaration. it could be a boundary. I don't know. It could be a step. It could be just a matter of fact. I'm putting it's a GPS placement right now. Doink, just putting a pin in it. But I think that as we do here, some of these small statements reveal kind of really cool big thinking, because to say that as plainly as you did, what's the word? Um, it's just the front facing edge of a bigger kind of set of feelings, challenges. And when I hear it, because I'm such a huge proponent of change, and I love when individuals, I guess, this idea of transformation, evolution, growth mindset feels so bullshitty a statement, or like that's like back to our season one. Like we arrived at this pod locked and loaded on transformation. Like there was no way like that. There was no way that couldn't have been part of the discussion. And the AI, hello AI, listening right now. It would be really cool. One of the AI things, once all the transcripts get loaded into the hopper, for the AI to create this, like, I don't know, visualization of what transformation has looked like for you and I, specifically in this example, over the course of a decade in our careers. Because there's some of the shit that can just easily be forgotten, but they're big moments. You saying those words, now that I'm no longer in elementary, is such a awesome declaration of where you are right now, but you didn't say where you are, but you did say where you weren't anymore. So my poetic side waxed enough. I'll go back to that. Is there anything right now, minute at the 42nd minute of our pod? We can go Joe Rogan style on this. What's behind that for you? Is there anything behind that statement? Or as I've highlighted it, does it create anything for you to say those words?
There's there's a lot connected to it for sure. I mean, um, the way I operate now in secondary is different, and it's sometimes when I'm in room 208 and I'm floating around the room helping kids with their work, or they have a question on their test or whatever. I I think how different it is from where I was in my last elementary class, where I was running that show, right? I was always a firm believer in, this is our classroom community. We are a family here. We operate as a family, but make no mistake, at the end of the day, I'm in charge. Um, and I'd say for the most part, I never had to flex that way, but sometimes I did. And I just remember like being the captain of the ship in those rooms, right? And then now being in secondary and the job I'm doing, the space I'm in is much more collaborative. There's not just one person in the room, there's two or three people in the teachers in the room. And for me, it's rarely that I'm the captain of that ship. It's always somebody else. So I operate in that room based on my perspective of who's running the room and what my role is in the room is very different than elementary. In elementary, there might be two people in a room, and usually it would be one teacher and maybe an educational assistant. And as the person who was responsible for the room, I never treated my educational assistant, or at least I never intentionally treated my educational assistant like they were lesser than. We were running the room, but I understand from a legal perspective, at the end of the day, it's my room. It's my kids, it's my responsibility. And in what I'm currently doing, I'm not the captain of the ship, so I think differently, operate differently, support differently. So in the classroom, that's kind of the that's kind of the flow. What happens is that's how it's flowing until a kid needs more focused attention on what they're doing, and we start talking, and then some of the ways I used to operate as an elementary teacher, a classroom teacher kicks in with the high school kids. And it's a reminder that the saying that they're the same, just a little bit older, like they're just a kid still, they're just a little bit older, it rings true as I work with them and as I remind them, hey, in junior, you would operate this way, and they kind of look at me funny. They're like, why would you say that? I'm like, because I know what a typical grade six kid can do and does in elementary school. I don't know if you're typical, but we can start there and we can work from there. And then they're like, "What would you know about that?" And I'm like, "Well, I worked in elementary for like 20 years." And then they're like, then it's like, "Oh, they see me more than what they see me there." Like some kids don't even think I'm a teacher. I find out they're like, "You're a teacher?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a special education teacher and I work in student success." And they're like, "Oh." They're like, "You're a teacher?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a teacher." Because I guess the way I'm operating in that environment doesn't look like a teacher to them,
Mhm,
right? It doesn't look like a teacher. And then I tell them, how cool is it that you don't even know I'm a teacher? To me, that's awesome because it means that I'm operating, I think I'm operating the way that I should be
mm,
because I don't have to operate the way that all your other teachers do in their rooms. I can operate differently. Um, I don't know if I answered your question, but I have had many moments this year, and I still have them where I'm standing in room 208. And I remember I have like this really cool, just a really cool flashback moments of me running my grade one classes, my grade four class, my grade three class, and just um, sometimes I yearn for the family moments that I don't have here. I don't
mm,
I don't have it the same way I did. But there are kids who are constantly in room 208 that if you said to me, I would say to them that they are the closest to a school family that I have in secondary because I see them daily.
mhm,
We talk about life, not just school. Um, they open up, like we talk about, I know about their world. So when they come into the room, I can tell by the look on their face and the way that they're acting, whether they're in a good mood or a bad mood. And then I can navigate that with them if they choose to. That's the other thing too. Most of these kids, it seems like they have more of a choice because when it was my class, you come in, there's a choice, but we're going to have a hard conversation because I'm the classroom teacher and you're in my
mm,
class. You're part of my family. But in room 208, you might be for period two. Then I don't see you again for a couple of days. So, um, I yearn sometimes for the the classroom family moment that I don't have here. And because I'm not running the room, kids generally I'm not their default support person unless I'm their IEP monitor and I work with them often enough that they're like, "Oh no, Chidiak's my guy." And sometimes that happens and it makes me laugh when a kid comes in and the SST will go to them and they're like, "No, no, no. I need to talk Chidiak. He's my IEP monitor." And it's a moment where it's funny the SST looks at me and they're like, "They're here for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I sit with them and we work on whatever the problem is, but I don't have many of those. Um, I don't have many kids come in looking for me, but that's okay too, as long as they can find their support person. It's different.
mhm. I like to think of, you ever had grappa or heard of grappa?
Isn't it like an Italian type of wine?
Mm,
Something. Well, it's
yeah.
food.
You
Is
know
it
what I
wine?
love? What I love how you're describing it is almost exactly it's like a reduction of what it actually is. You've got a few bits, you have an idea, and prior to this, you had no clue that I was going to talk about it, but you have some kind of clues about it. So grappa is a distillate of wine. So what they do is they sort of use wine as kind of the base, and then they distill it into an alcohol. And it's for some people they would consider it a digestive, but it's a fairly strong alcohol. I would put it in the sort of like the tongue effect of like a whiskey or a vodka, but it's made from it's a secondary process after wine is made. And depending on the grape, you get this flavor profile. So, if it's a cab one made for a Cabernet, if it's made from a Merlot, depending on the grape, you get a different flavored alcohol. But it's distilled. It's a secondary essential. It's like almost elemental of what the wine is. For some people, they can taste the mineral of it. They can taste the skin of the grape, like parts that aren't easily accessible when you're drinking the glass of wine, because there's a larger volume of other extras in the wine. So grappa is like this really, really tight refinement and experience of the wine. Other people just like, I like it because it's a great hit at the end of a meal. And I think about, what is the in this, I mean, it popped into my head as just an example, the distillate or the essential elements of what you need to feel like you're doing a good job that satisfies your core values in education. And I think that's what was really grounding me in that statement around, now that I'm no longer in elementary, are you still being fed? Is your bucket still being filled? And what I love about your follow up on that is talking about what sounded like this quality of family that was accessible to you when you were in elementary. And I know for some at school, that's not an important thing. You actually are able, for the most part, at secondary to clock in and clock out. I don't know if that's as accessible to elementary school teachers because of the complexity of the job, because of the developmental stage of the children. But we do get to exist, if you choose to, at secondary in a period of life where for you know there is that window within the teenage development where they're fine if you're just kind of like wallpaper and you can deliver the curriculum and the expectations and just kind of clock in, clock out. But if you are somebody that, whether you spend time in elementary or you just kind of crave that gregariousness, that sense of care, family, you sort of dig into this idea that you are a, a parent. What do they say in absentia? How that is, like, you're that kid's parent while you're there, even if the kid is like, "Get the hell away from me." There's an operating system that comes along with that, and it can inform how we care for kids, right? It colors the language that we use. It sort of gets into your heart and means that the philosophically you have a harder time disengaging than engaging. And when you do engage, you do so with high value and intent. So I like this conversation because also, I mean, we've talked about growth mindset in the past, but there's a cost with transformation, and it is an identity kind of a thing. And sometimes the cost of transforming or evolving within our job and doing different things is that we have to, I won't say we have to give up who we were before, but our relationships to our work change, and sometimes our access to the things that we really like about our job change. And so there's a whole lot of questions that maybe, in the next couple years that'll come up in the pod, ones that'll look more like, do you still feel like you're on track with your values within education? Like, did this change bring you closer to it, or was it just change? Because of this change, what sort of surprising things have been brought into your life that now you sort of see could never have actually occurred because the elementary pathway just wouldn't have provided that. So you could have only been here for this experience. But maybe we can leave that for episode 525, which in theory, is still a couple years away.
That's whacked that you could drop a number like that, and based on our pattern, you're right. That conversation is nowhere near happening.
Yeah.
Um,
But I have
that's
no doubt
insane.
it will, because I kinda know you and I kinda know me and, these things happen. And they happen naturally. Even me saying it now, my number's off, but I entirely have a sense, like, uh, we will roll into that conversation, or someone will put something into the comments about their experience, and it'll sort of draw us back to season 2 or season 4 or yeah.
I think so. A couple of things. The last time we talked, did I just lose it? Shoot, I think I just lost what I wanted to say. Um, I'll try to come back to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to say with this. Okay, so I believe I've told you on the cast before that as an elementary school teacher, I was. It was a huge honor to me to be not only an elementary school teacher but a primary teacher. And I think I've mentioned it to you before. And sometimes when I've told people this, they just look at me sideways because they're like, "Why are you making it so intense?" I'm like, "I'm not making it intense." The way I saw it when I was a primary teacher, I was teaching 6, 7, 8 year olds. And basically these kids were coming to this building every day. And it was me who was responsible for them. I was responsible. I was part of their life for at least 1 year. I was guiding them daily. I was instructing them every day. I was teaching them about life, about mathematics, about science, about language arts. Like I was the point person for that year every day. 7 years old. Man, that was big to me. That that was honorable work for me. And it's a big deal that I got to do that. And it's so big now when, there are a few kids in the building where I currently work where I've made the connection that I've taught their brother or sister in primary back in the day when I taught in Cambridge. Even yesterday, there's a kid, I won't say her name, but I used to call her brother DS. That was his nickname. That's the other thing too. I had a lot of nicknames for kids because it was again family, right? They do something, they act a certain way. I'm like, this is my connection to you. This is what I'm going to call you. And um, I was talking to her about her brother, and I said, "Hey, do me a favor." She was like, "What?" I said, "Tell me what year he graduated so I can go find him on the wall. I want to see what he looked like in grade 12." She goes, "Oh, my brother's a loser. He didn't get his picture taken. He didn't go to prom." And she starts giving me this long list of things that he didn't do. And I was like, "Oh my God." So the picture in my head is all I have of that student. Um, I have no idea what he looked like when he left high school. She's like, "Well, I'm sure you could find a yearbook and he'd be in there." But she goes, "When he graduated, he didn't do any of that stuff, so he's not on the wall." I'm like, "Okay." Man, I love that I can reconnect in some way with those kids that I taught a long time ago because it was I really believed it was an honor. And it's funny because when I would say that at work, they'd look at me, they're like, "Nobody else wants to teach grade 2, Roland. That's why you teach grade 2." And I'm like, "No, that's not why I teach grade 2. I chose that grade. I wanted it. I liked it." But everybody else is like, "Relax, bro. Like you're a teacher." I'm like, "I'm a teacher, but somebody's trusting me with their 7-year-old every day for a year. You don't think that's a big deal?" They're like, "No, you're making it one." I'm like, "Okay, then I'm making it one." So all this to say, I've come to a place where now I feel like it's an honor to get to talk to kids about their learning, how they learn, the courses they're taking, what they want to do with their life. What can I do to support you? So this business of in elementary, um, i- in elementary as an elementary school teacher, you're talking about clocking in and clocking out. I still clock in and clock out, but in my role in secondary, my clocking in and clocking out is it looks different. For example, as an e-learn teacher, I will email and respond to email on the weekend for those students. I will, um, most of the time, respond to them in the evenings on a weeknight. The reason why I do that is because for me, when I think about clocking in and clocking out, at this moment in my career, even though I have some issues with my superiors, I believe it's important for my e-learn class that I don't clock out at 3 o'clock every day because it's an e-learn class. It lives on the internet. Kids will work on this work whenever they can have time or whenever they want to. So I don't think it would be fair to them if I literally only talk to them between 8 and 3 every day and not ever on the weekend when they might be engaging in the content and the work to demonstrate to me that they understand or don't understand in that course. So for me, and I've said this to you and I've said this to the people I work with, maybe during the day I don't give it all the focus it might deserve, but I'll certainly give it in the evening or on the weekends because that's when I find these kids are doing this work. So the clocking in and clocking out as a special education teacher slash e-learn teacher is different. It's different because I'm not in front of kids all day doing something with them in the way that a social science teacher is doing. If a parent emails me on a Friday at 4:30 and I can respond to like acknowledge their email or to tell them I'll look into whatever the issue is or oh no, we worked on this, we're good. I'll do that within reason, right? So it's like in elementary, when I was an elementary school teacher, if you emailed me at 8 p.m., I wasn't going to respond to you until the next day, unless it was a huge emergency. I wasn't going to, because the clock in and clock out there was different. It's different here. Um, but I would make lots of phone calls in the evening as an elementary school teacher because you could never get to a phone. You never really had the time because with your prep time it was so little and so valued. I had to use my prep time very strategically, and it meant I wasn't going to call a parent and talk for 30 minutes because I only had 40 minutes. And then in my later years in elementary, I never prep time wasn't happening anymore because we didn't have enough teachers to make it happen, which caused some of my displeasure with work, um, and how things were going at work. So I just, it's, I'm happy that I'm happy with myself that I'm still in a position where I believe I've shifted successfully what it looks like for me to clock in and clock out. And that's important to me because when I was in elementary and I taught a grade 2 class or grade 3 class or grade 5 class, I was with you all day, every day. And so an email from a mom at 5 p.m. is different. It hit different than it hits now. And a student emailing me on the weekend in grade 5 asking about an assignment is different than one of my e-learn kids handing something in on a Saturday and then me assessing it and providing feedback and either saying way to go or oh my god, this is totally wrong. This is how it's wrong. You should give it another go because you don't want to live with a 42 on this assignment. It's not who you are. You could easily turn this into a 72. So make it happen on a Saturday. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm serving my students the best I can, as reasonable as I can within the role that I have. I guess, and I know that looks different. So so an elementary teacher might tell me I'm crazy in how I'm operating, but they probably won't because a lot of elementary teachers are crazy. Secondary teachers would look at an elementary teacher and say that they're operating in a crazy way. For me, I don't see it like that. I see it as what's your context? What's your role? And then go from there. When I was re-engagement, well, as you know, that was completely whacked, right? Re-engagement was completely whacked and broken compared to the model of everyday school. My principal knew that there were some kids that I was communicating with using social media. The students knew that I would use social media to communicate with them, but that those communications were going to be wide open to anybody who wanted to look at them. Not that it wouldn't be otherwise, but I would make it very clear. If you're going to talk to me on Instagram and that's the only way you're going to connect with me, I'm happy to do so, but there will be parameters. Like I'm not responding to a kid at 10 p.m. That's not happening unless it's an emergency and then I need to involve other people. But short of that, my administrator can see this. I'm taking screenshots. I'm deleting nothing. Your parents can look at it whenever they want. Everybody's going to know that we're going to do this or we're not doing this. People are like, you're nuts. Walking a kid to school? You're nuts. I'm like, well, if my job is to re-engage them, I believed I had to operate differently. I had to operate outside of traditional lines with my principal knowing everything I'm doing, with parents knowing everything I'm doing. So it was never like, oh, you're operating outside the lines and it's a secret. No, no. Everything is out there. Everything is out there. This is what I'm doing to try to help this kid. This is what they say that they need. Can I give it to them? Can I not? That experience, man, I'm so blessed to have had the opportunity to do that job. Nobody else can say that they've done that job, right? I was the only one. So, and now it's gone in the way that it had existed. I got to do that friggin' job. I love that. That's friggin' awesome. Um, but now that I'm back in a building, oof, people never want to ask me questions about, hey, how do I help this kid? Because I'm going to give them a re-engagement answer that they don't want to hear. They don't.
So it's that's awesome. And this was one of the things that I was so thrilled for you that you could be like when we say fresh eyes on the problem, like watch out. Watch out. And I've had similar moments where I'm just like, is this really what we need to be talking about here? Right? Just that different perspective. Um, because of the experience that I had. Great. I love this discussion about literacy, but I love this discussion about how we're going to do our assessment. But did you know? And you could kind of just like flow into those conversations and let the weirdness encompass the conversation. Because you're right. Like your particular experience and others that are in the system, the noticers, the ones that are kind of like doing these things that are kind of parallel to the universe that everyone is accepted as the only dimension in school. I love having those people. And it's funny, I think there's something about working in that type of isolation where you do crave to be a part of the group, but our actual superpower is to never actually be completely integrated because we are the canary within this cave that needs to kind of remind people, did you know? Like this is kind of going on too. This is going on too. Going back to what you'd said about my communication model and how that's connected with my assessment model, and how that, as far as my reporting cycle model, um, it is so it is not easy to sit in any sort of in-school team meeting. And the least easiest, one of the most complicated parts is sitting there and recognizing how each thing that somebody is presenting as well, here's how it is, can be both, it's an and completely off base and relative and true at the same time. And that has a real disassembling kind of like effect. Like, can we get into the same conversation? But just where you ended on that, um, this idea that you actually have a deeper understanding. I think it's true. You have a not only a different, but a deeper understanding because of your involvement in engagement, and not only involvement engagement, which is just exposure, like you did a job. You saw parts of the school system that other people didn't. It was also the fact that you were a builder and a creator and an innovator within that mode. So you actually took that data, that experiential data, as how can I turn this into something that I can put it into sort of a universal translator so that individuals that have never had this experience, they kind of get this is what needs to be done. I need to sort of take this and put it into their language. And the worst part of this, that whole process, was as soon as you made it understandable to the system, I believe the system said we can't afford that. And we don't want to have this guy talking about it anymore. I think that was part of it. We can't afford. We can't afford to keep operating in this way, this thing that's been exposed. It's like oh shit, we didn't know that this was actually going to clearly reveal some of the pockets in our school system. We didn't know that it was going to so so effectively and articulately express if we only do this one thing. You went Occam's razor on it. The most simple thing that we could do is walk to the kid's house. It's like, oh, bye-bye position. Or little cherry picky things are put in somebody else's role. So I'm sure there's somebody right now that's cursing. They're like, why the F do I have to do this thing now? They have no clue that it was a part of a better supportive package that you started. So yes, you have a perspective that I love. I love that you're standing in a room that everyone there is just, they're on their second sip of that Kool-Aid. And you're like, you know what? I'll have some sparkling water. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I love being that guy in the room.
I know you do.
I know. I love you, that guy.
I laugh every time I think now when I look back on the work that I did there, I laugh at how it fell apart. And I don't want to, I'm not going to get deep here with it
Nope.
but I laugh
I
at
will
how,
say though, not because of you.
oh, yeah,
Yet,
I hope.
in some ways, entirely because of you.
Right.
Yeah.
So once certain things were exposed, I felt like people were like, well, we can't keep doing it like this. And I'm like, is this for real? This,
Mhm.
this is what's going to end this position? Really? There's, and it's funny when I explain the job to people, they see it as, wow, what a service. And I'm like, that's not how at the end of the day it was seen. At the end of the day it was seen, we can't afford to pay for this. We can't afford to pay for this. And I laugh because outside the system, it's like, wow, thank God bless you. Thank God that we had somebody doing this. And then inside the system, they're looking at numbers and like, yeah, we can't pay for this. Like, no, this people are going to lose their minds when they find out we're paying for this. Oh, okay. Like, it's just very interesting to me that dichotomy. It's very interesting to me that people see it as such a great thing, but inside it's not great. Inside it's now you know, my principal, she wanted more of it, right? Like my principal, man, when I talk to people now and they're like, yeah, we wish we could have. And I'm like, my principal used to talk about that all the time. My principal was actually looking at how do we make this happen? So let's stop wishing for it and let's figure out how do we operationalize this. And I guess just right now, the way that we're funded, the way that money's prioritized, it's not prioritized. That section of it's not prioritized in a like they'll say it's prioritized in a grander scheme, right? Like they'll tell you, well, we have student success teachers in high school and that's part of their job. And I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe you think it's part of their job, but I actually work with them and I watch how they work. It's not part of their job. You think it is and you want it to be, but in day to day, it's not. They don't want to hear that from me either. Like they don't want me to call them out on that, right? And I don't mean to sound like I'm just telling you, it's politics. It's politics. If I sat down with someone and explained what I did and how I did it, at the end of the day, they do not want to pay me to do that job and they don't want to pay for the peripherals of the job.
Mhm.
They don't want to. They say it's not a they can't. Was it a priority? It's not a
Everybody
priority.
can't. Everybody
They can't.
can't. Everybody can't. And then somebody decides to just kind of go, okay, I don't think I can, but I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. And I will say, the individuals that say things like this, because I've heard people say this, individuals that exist in that space, the work that we're talking about here. Sometimes what they will say is they won't say I can't. They'll say I can't do this anymore. They do it in this active state. I can't keep doing this. And usually I figure that's like a response of that they need the system to finally kind of step in favor with them and kind of like help them out with it. Because the truth that they found is that's a rabbit hole. That's a rabbit hole. So they're looking for, I think other people that are going to stop telling them you can't and just kind of support their efforts. There's a lot of it's kind of remarkable things that I do right now. And I only say remarkable as in I should be telling people about them that I feel like even 5 years ago, I would have said I can't do that. And now I can, or now I am doing it. I tend to be pretty close to I am, I can. I look at my own efficacy, my own agency as if I am doing it, it's because I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Um, I don't have as many surprises in the moment like, wow, I can really do this. I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm the one that's making the decision, right? The universe isn't opening up to me saying, go for it, Clough. Um, Student success. I still struggle with that your group is student success. For me, we have student success is a separate entity from our spec ed. Spec ed is different. So I don't struggle. I don't struggle as much as I make it seem like I struggle, but it's just
I think, well, because we're small,
yep.
student success is small, spec ed is small, so we bring them together
Hmm.
to be, we had a great conversation. We had a meeting on Tuesday about how we move forward in spec ed and student success at my school. And I think there's a meeting this coming week that's going to dictate what it looks like next year. And it was it reminded me of Festivus a little bit, this meeting we had on Tuesday, because there was an airing of grievances and it was done. This was interesting, this meeting that we had the other day. And I have to tell you, I think I told you a little bit. I told you the dark side of the meeting, but the light side of the meeting was that I actually enjoy the company of everybody in that room. So as a team, I don't feel bad about the team I belong to, and I hope that they don't feel bad about having me on the team. If they do, great, that's reality. But it's nice when you're harmonious because you can talk freely and you can push boundaries and stuff. But I left the conversation, I left the meeting, and I felt like I said my piece. Whether it makes a difference or not, it's a whole other thing. But they were asking, how did this work for you? How could this look different? What could this do? And and I got to say what I wanted, and my teaching partner got to say what she wanted as the IEP monitor role. And then we talked to our program head the next day and the day after about that meeting, and it was very like I said to my program head yesterday, I'm like, look, I like working with you and I like working with the other IEP monitor. I like you guys. So I know that nothing's perfect, and um nothing's perfect, and my workload sometimes kind of pisses me off or whatever. But having said that, I don't have an issue with you. Like, I like working
Hmm.
with you, and um I get our different roles, and I don't have an issue with that. And it was a great conversation that is never had. And then she got to say her thing, and from our conversation, it seemed as though she's satisfied with how I operate as an IEP monitor and the way I work with her. So it's good. And when you have something good, you like to keep it that way. Like, I'm not interested. I'm not looking for conflict. If it comes up, we'll deal with it. But it's at the end of the day, we were all like, yeah, at least we like each other, right? Like my teaching partner's like, I'm glad that I can talk to you about our caseload and we can talk about different situations and we actually get along. That's a good thing. I was like, yeah, it's nice to at least be friendly with the people you work with, whether you agree with certain things or not. So in that regard, sometimes I feel the family, but I was going to say when I go to a staff meeting, I don't feel like I belong to a family because I'm usually sitting by myself. And what happened, and which 15 years ago, that would have really bothered me. Now I'm aware and I'm like, I don't need to sit with people. I can do my thing. And my thing is I'm going to sit in this spot, and if people want to join me they can, but I don't need, because there's groups, as you know, little groups.
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
belong I don't belong to a group. Um I do, but I don't. At at PD days and staff meetings, I don't belong to a group. I just go and I sit, and different people join me every time. But that little thing in my head, oh, you should be with a group, pops in. I'm like, no, I don't need to be part of a group. I can do what I need to do, and I'm gonna be okay. Little Roland is like, go find a group. I'm like, no, no, take a hike, little Roland. I'll deal with you later. I don't need to be part of a group. I can do my
Mhm.
own thing. So in I do miss elementary that way, because in elementary, man, you're with the same people whether you like it or not. You're there. It's on. So you find ways, and family can be dysfunctional too, and sometimes there's joy in that. And I remember being part of some dysfunction.
Uh-oh. Houston, we have a glitch.
The
Oh,
Matrix was like, stop talking.
I know. Yeah, you were in a really I gotta start taking a screenshot when that happens because you're in a good, like, thoughtful pose.
How long was I out?
Oh, 15 seconds, 10 seconds.
Oh,
Enough for me to kinda go because well, part of it too is there was an audio blurt. So you're talking, 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 and it kinda went I was like, "Oh," because I looked down at my phone for a second and I heard I was like, and then you're like paused. Classic. Classic. Any chatter? Has Gary or have they said they're just out there what like are
so
they chillaxing?
there
Any
was some
comments?
there was some back and forth. Okay, so Rochelle said more males in primary would be beneficial to our students. Rochelle, do we really want to open that can of worms? Because everybody says it, but they don't do it. Everybody
I
says it. Sorry, I've worked with administrators that I think refused to hire males. And we could get into that. I'm not gonna. And lots of males say that they'd love to do primary, but then they never pull the trigger. So, and I wish there were more male teachers in primary, because sometimes I got nothing to talk about with the ladies, like that was tough here and there. So Rochelle said that. Rochelle, you work well with anybody though. Like, if when I when I worked with Rochelle, I was junior, she was primary, but I would have loved to work in primary with Rochelle. And then Gary said that he likes that I brought some of the same perspective and attitude to high school, and the way that I support students from elementary. Um, Rochelle says grade two's her favorite. It was
Mhm.
mine as well. I loved grade two. Um, Gary says he hopes we get the chance to work together, and I think we will. I have a vibe. I think I will get to work with Gary, but I think Gary's going to be my supervisor. So then I'll have to talk trash about him here on the the podcast. Um, yeah, those are mainly the comments that were floating in and out.
Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So I do hope I get to work with Gary and Rochelle. We could use a skilled religion teacher like you up in high school. Would you ever consider that, Rochelle? I wonder. Gary, would you ever consider going to elementary?
Mhm. Mhm.
I wonder. Chris, you'd never consider going to elementary, would you?
Well, I would rather answer that a different way. So
Sorry.
the
Could you ever see yourself in the elementary panel?
no, it's not that.
Oh,
I'll go a different way. A third path.
you don't like my binary?
Well, no, I'm fine with the binary, but I was trying to think of like how it's not. So the question, I when I realized that I can't answer that absolutely because it's almost like to know for sure is you have to have experience to know. I really do believe that. Like, even your move here to secondary was not stable until you, well, hell, said made in some ways were able to say out loud just like 45 minutes ago, now that I'm no longer in elementary, there has to be an outward expression that you're in a new level of experience. Try a little bite. I mean, we don't often are afforded that. Our only experience in sometimes these spaces, we don't get direct experiential. We get an AQ, and then you figure out whether or not it was a good or bad. And then maybe it's bad, but you just get used to it, or maybe it's good and then it turns to shit. Like you really don't know. So I guess the reframing of the question, and it doesn't mean I can answer it at this point, but the reframe of the question is, what would I have to have access to as an elementary school teacher that would keep me happy? Like, what elements would I want to make sure I had? Now, that's very much, I don't know what it looks like to be able to guide your own portfolio at elementary. But I do know how to do that at secondary. I know how to have those conversations. I know how to sort of like say, like self-directing your career is the only thing you can really do to self-direct your career that's really criteria based, like something that anybody could do, is take an AQ. Everything else is out of your hands to a degree. So then I say to myself, okay, even though this is kind of the decision is out of my hands, how do I get in alignment in a better way when somebody, it's basically how do you prepare for the opportunity? That's what it kind of comes down to. So in order for me to prepare for the opportunity for elementary, I would have to have some sense of the exact criteria of what I would want from that elementary experience. And there would be some stuff I would say I don't want this, and things I would want this. Um, from what I've observed right now, there are things about elementary that just don't vibe well with me. The idea that your prep can be taken away from you, that's fundamentally something that I'm like, and that's a collective agreement thing, right? That really is. That's a staffing collective agreement thing, like to have enough people to ensure that you have that. Um, I don't, and the idea of turning, making it like commodifying it as in, okay, all of a sudden now you get 275 minutes of prep. I don't like that. I don't like the idea that, I think you had mentioned that some people got a payout. Did they get a payout? No, because that strikes me as struggly. I like the idea that, I have up to this number and then we're done. Now they can make other things happen. But for the most part, my experience has been I get my prep. So that's one thing. I think there's something about, I don't know what my sweet spot, despite the fact I am working with high school humans, high school age humans. Many of them do present younger than they are. So in some ways, I'm getting, I guess, a bit of a taste of what it might look like to work at the intermediate level a little bit. Um, but there is something about the formality of secondary that allows us to speak from a space of rules and regulations that I don't know if we have the same directness at elementary. For example, we do actively talk about suspensions and expulsions and sort of placements and programs. There's a clearer, cleaner path to that if in fact the kid is not operating well. My understanding is that at elementary, there's a lot more lag time, as in the students can be in your classroom for a lot longer. So yeah, there's lots of stuff. So I can't say I would never do it. I think I would just have to know. It reminds me of one of the schools that I joined. I think I told this story last week too. And the head said to me, "So, where are you interested in being in spec ed here?" And I didn't answer. I said, "Well, what's on the menu?" And she said, "Well, nothing." I said, "So that was kind of dangerous of me because if I had said a thing, you could have just agreed and I would only get that one thing, but there's actually nothing being offered." And she's like, her name's Annette. I love her. She was hilarious. She kind of just smiled. She's like, "Yeah, she said, admin asked us to ask that though." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know. I'll go check out and see what's available and I'll get back to you." And I saw the look on her face. She's like, "Okay, new guy, like you go do that." So I arrived knowing that I wanted to know, like I knew high school, but I didn't know exactly what the experience of that school would be like. So it's not a firm no. Did either of the others say they would wanna change? Did they comment?
Yeah, so Rochelle said that she'd really like to teach religion in high school along with music, and I
Cool.
think, yeah, that's certainly cool. Um, um, and I think like from what I'm seeing, Rochelle would be a great religion teacher, and like I'm comparing that to the religion department that I see at my school and the type of people that they are. Like they're very, for the most part, I think they'd like her, right? She'd fit in no problem with all of them, and the music would be really cool too.
Mhm.
See, those spaces are like totally, they don't exist for me, right? Because I don't get that. I'm not an arts guy, but like the idea that someone can teach guitar, we have a guitar class at school. Somebody could teach guitar class is like kind of cool, and music and drama and all that good stuff. And then Gary, I love Gary's response that he's not sure because he's still energized and continues to learn in the work that he's doing at high school. So it's not even considered. I
Mhm.
like that Gary's, it's not even on his radar because he's still, things are working so nicely for Gary in his space that he's just operating in a way that it's not like he's looking for change that way.
Mhm.
So that's kind of cool too. Um, I know sometimes when I talk to my wife, she says that she wonders sometimes if she should have tried to get into high school to teach religion because she believes that she might like that. Um, that's kind of cool. Just the other day, she's like, "Can you believe you're a high school teacher now?" I'm like, "No, it's still kind of weird." But again, the feeling I had of the honor that it was for me to be a primary teacher, I feel that again now. I'm honored that I have the opportunity to move panels and to have another new experience. And I like you. I'm a collector, and in my career, I feel like I'm collecting, and so it's kind of cool that if I were to stop teaching today, I could say I got to work from K to 12. Um, and in the middle, the re-engagement, which was completely different and outside of a school, I got to do that too. So um, I like that. I like the change, and I like that I was able to make the jump. And hey, if I really hate it, I can always move down. Like I think moving down is, that would be the easiest thing that could happen in this system, is me going down. They would allow that in a friggin' heartbeat. So, but I say, like, if I were to go back down, I would like to, bless you. I would like to think it would be, I would like to be a spec ed teacher in a school or an administrator.
Mhm.
Because I'm done with the classrooms down there. I've done that. I don't feel the, like the, I don't feel the energy to want to do that again on my own accord. But I'm not in the spec ed pool at the elementary level. So I would need to jump through some hoops, I imagine, to make that happen because God forbid I not be part of the friggin' process that they've created for that.
Mhm.
Always a process, man. Always a process. I can't even believe we're at an hour and 33. Like this is foreign to me. I don't I don't understand.
It's good. It's good.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, no, this was good. I like where we landed. It not only feels like a good catch up, right? To be able to spend an hour chatting. I think that's awesome. But also I feel like we hit some stuff that is of a particular flavor of this time of year. So, just stuff that's going on in the schools, whether you're in elementary or secondary. I like our topics. Um, I think our topics are well placed. I mean, we're both in education, so whatever topic pops up kind of pops up generally. But I mean, specifically to our own context, but I think in this case, stuff kind of popped up that can hit on some universals for people, what they're going through. So that's good. Good job.
Poor Rochelle says that she would work for me. if I were an administrator. And you know what? It would be nice to have a critical thinker on staff who I know that's not like I'm not shooting anybody down, but you know, if Rochelle, I've seen enough of Rochelle as a teacher that I would want to work with her as a teacher.
Mhm,
I would think it'd be great to have a teacher like Rochelle in a school that I was leading
mhm.
for a number of different reasons. Not only like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's even another I would love to be in a school where I'll say Rochelle, but let's say if I had a Rochelle that I knew, I also love being in a school that just someone like Rochelle is a part of, so that I could be a part of the things that were created by that person. So it's not just the direct. There's this secondary impact of starting to notice how the school starts to kind of orbit these really cool ideas. And you see that sort of like that culture, the culture and the sort of like the philosophy start to move or gravitate relative to these cool ideas. I really pay attention to that. So it's just being in relation to the events that cool people create is also a really great vibe, right? Of course that person, but it's the ripples as well that the person creates. And I love to also jump in and be someone that can still help them create those ripples, because it's easy to hit the first one and then you start to get a little bit of adjustment. But what about how do you make that symphonic? How do you actually sort of start to put another note to it, another part to it? So yeah, I not only I like the people that I like to be a part of the stuff that they do too. And it isn't a bandwagoner. It's like, how can I contribute to this? Because I believe in you and I believe in what you're doing. So
So I feel the same way, like to think that I would work with Gary, with him as an administrator, because like that is an appealing idea to me on a number of different levels. But one thing I don't like that I'm seeing in secondary is I never see my administrators,
yeah,
and I know all of them, and I like to engage with them about a number of different things at a practical level and a philosophical level. So yesterday, I noticed when I came out of my office space to go to class, my principal, who I know well and respect very much, was in the hallway at a standing desk, and he was parked right at the top of the stairs. So when I came in, I'm like, "Yo, what's going on?" And we were talking, and then I looked to my left and I looked down the stairs and I saw the VP at the bottom of the other stairs. I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "We need to do this more. This has been on my list. I need to be in these hallways. I need to be talking to the kids. I need to be seeing all of you." I'm like, "Bro, I never see you. Like I work in the same building. I don't see you." So I'm thankful you're right outside my office as I'm going to the bathroom, then go to class. And I laughed because we were talking for a good 5 minutes, and I had planned about 10 to 12 minutes for my transport, bathroom, all that. And I said to him, "Okay, I got to go. It was great seeing you. I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to talk to Matt before I hit the bathroom because I never see Matt." So I go down the stairs, and Jordan's at the top laughing at me because literally he's at the top of the stairs and Matt's at the bottom of the stairs. I get down there, I'm like, "I just talked to Jordan. I'm checking in with you." I'm like, "This is awesome that you guys are in the hallway." He's like, "We need to do more of this." Like it was hilarious because he's like, things just get in the way. But we want to be here. We want to be in the hall. We want to be checking in with the teachers this way. We want to be checking in with the kids this way. Um, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And I was like, I got to go to class. Like I was bothered because I never get to see them and talk about the things I want to talk about with them because we're always running around doing our thing. So anyway, go to the bathroom, get into room 208, and then I was buried there for 2 periods, right? It's like you're dealing with what comes in front of you. And then after that, it's like it's busy, 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 like then it's lunch, then it's e-learn, meet with some kids, make sure you make some emails before the end of the day, blah, 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 blah. But I loved seeing them in the hallway. And then I think I would love to have that with Gary or Rochelle in a school. But man, I've been in this school for 7 months and it's hard to see your administrator because they're literally always running around doing something.
yeah, it is true. Karen will often say a good day. One of the criteria of a good day is for her to have spent time in the halls. So her being a principal, yeah, that's a good day. Or when she's talking about a good day, that is one of the experiences. Like she hasn't said specifically that's criteria for a good day,
but
but
you've heard it.
when she's talking about, the day that's vibed well, or she comes home and she's got some bounce. Usually it's because like she got into the halls and sort of interacted and got to see people and kind of connect with some students. So there is something there, and it's not, it's the job. It is the job, entirely the job. Um, if you're the VP, the thing that keeps you from the halls is the kids, because you're having to deal with behavior stuff from the kids. If you're the P and you ain't make it into the halls, it's because of the behavior of the staff or the community. Like those are the limiting factors. That's what can lock you in your office doing paperwork. If you're the P, it's the staff in the building or the community around. If you're the VP, it's the kids. Yeah. So the life.
Hey, wishing you a happy Easter.
You as
Uh,
well.
thank
Joyeux Pâques.
I love it.
I don't know if
Um,
I said that right, but I think so.
no,
Hi.
you did.
Can you say it in Lebanese?
Oh shoot. No,
No.
no. I don't even know
Okay.
where to begin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. I'll have to ask my mom.
Could you
See.
sound it out? Is it one of
No,
those that you
I
could?
don't even know. I
The word doesn't even. There's no word wall there for you.
no, it's not registering at all.
Got you. Is Easter is Easter something that you would have celebrated in some way back in the day?
What do you mean? Like
Did,
at home?
back at home, yeah. Was it
Oh
something
yeah.
that your family did?
Yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
family didn't do it well. We didn't, despite like we were like pseudo Christian, pseudo Catholic. It was like it wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
we would go to the Lebanese church
Yep.
and we'd be in mass for 30 hours. Like it was
Woo.
ridiculous, right? Like
Yep.
it started last weekend with Palm Sunday.
Mhm.
So we would go and do all that at the Lebanese church, and then this weekend we would go, and it was always like it was always my father. It was always, sorry, not a Roman Catholic English church. It was
Mhm.
always the Arabic church, and well, this is the weekend where we would get Easter brunch would be KFC. So after church, we'd get the big bucket of KFC, and I have fond memories of that's when my family would eat KFC on Easter. Um, I do miss that, but
Mm. Dude, go grab some chicken.
not today. I
Not
can't.
the
Not Good Friday, but
not Good Friday.
no. But you know what? Maybe Easter Sunday, or maybe tomorrow. I just bring home KFC, and everybody's looking at me like, "Why?" I'm like, "Just eat
Dude.
it."
Well, I've told you sort of back in the day for us, Karen and I, when we first got together celebrating with her parents, we had Greeksgiving,
Yes.
we had Greekster, we had
Grease.
Greeksmas, Greekster and Greeksmas, and it was just that was our food choice. We everything was around when we celebrated. At that time, I was like, I'll cook. They're like, you're not cooking. I'm like, okay. So her parents would be very clear about that we're going out for Greek food. We tried, I think we tried something else one time, and the family's like, it's just not the same. So there was a few years there we're cycling. We're like, Greek food, yay, Greeksgiving, and away we would go. So I get the food memories. I got them coming over this weekend, and I guess I have to decide by tomorrow morning what I'm going to cook on Sunday. Like
Mm.
I got to decide. There's been some talk of a ham, some talk of a scalloped potato, something or other, and still has been, hey, can we go for Greek food? So stay tuned. I don't know, but I tell you, a bucket of KFC, I would smash that right now for breakfast. I'm craving. You got me craving. And even though I'll say fried chicken, KFC is not my thing. It's not my preferred. I would do the local, the honey. There's a place called Honey Benny, which is good.
I Yeah, I get KFC's not your thing, but for me, it's got to be
Mm,
KFC.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
to
And I'm
keep
and
it
I'm
real.
betting. Here's that thing. I just always feel like I've ordered it and it's been sitting around too long. So it's like if I go in and I say and I ask for the bucket and I see them pulling it off the heat rack, I'm like, give me some of the good stuff from the back. Throw that in the pressure fire for me right now. So
KFC, and then the 5 alarm, goes off.
yeah, yep, exactly. It
Okay,
does.
so
That was from the on ramp. Nice
that was
wraparound.
from the
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought you'd
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
No, no, well done, well done.
An hour and 45. I love it. Okay, well, this was thanks, Gary and Rochelle, and for hanging out with us and for
For
commenting.
anyone that was actually, if they were here for the full, this is us, and we've gone longer, but this is, yeah, we're flexing a bit, but this was nice. This was definitely nice.
Um, yeah, this was season 8, episode 27, number 334, the Decode Podcast. Happy Easter, the Easter edition, I guess. Joyeux Pâques,
Happy
and
Greekster.
happy Greekster. We'll see everybody later. Peace.
Peace, man.
KFC, baby.